Hey everybody, it's Norm and Will back for another episode of Behind the Garage Door. Today, we're going to head over to Palm Harbor and meet up with Mr. Hurley's brother, Roger, and check out a car he bought brand new 36 years ago. So we made our way out to Roger's house. Beautiful place, Roger. This is a beautiful neighborhood. The house is fantastic. The drive-in was a lot of fun. Super excited to see this car that you have hidden behind this garage door. So without further ado, let's check it out. Okay, so first of all, Roger, I have always been a huge fan of the Grand Nationals. Now, you've had this car for...
almost 37 years.
You bought it new?
Yes.
You bought this car brand new?
Yeah.
Okay, so...
original window sticker, everything.
The original window sticker. Now, have you always been a fan of the G-body style, or is this just, something that you always wanted and just kind of happened and one day you said, I'm going to go buy one?
I've always been a fan of the performance sedans, you might want to call them.
Okay, all right.
That's why my first car was a Charger, and I've had this, and then I've had Impala SS's and
I love
more
Impala SS's.
more Dodge Chargers and things like that. So I like that type of car.
Okay.
It's something that you can use, you can drive to work and you can run errands in, but at the same time it's fun to drive. It looks cool.
And I'm a huge fan of T-tops, and this car has T-tops. Did you order this car? Or did you find it just like this?
Because
it's got everything.
Yeah, I found it like this.
Okay.
I had a Monte Carlo SS right before this that got hit. The only car accident I've had.
Oh.
And when that car got hit, I took it as an opportunity to get into a Grand National, because the Grand Nationals were ending. It was the last year of Grand Nationals.
Last year is 87, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I went looking for the car, and
where'd you find it?
I found it in Pinellas Park at Keelan Buick.
Oh, so right here in Florida. So it's a Florida car.
It's a Pinellas County car.
Pinellas County car. It's never left Pinellas County.
That's right.
Wow.
The dealership's long gone. It's an apartment complex now.
Yeah, most places around here have become apartment complexes, unfortunately. That's an expensive car in 87.
Yeah, it was all I owned when I was 26 years old.
I bet it was.
And I always tell everybody the next most expensive thing I owned after this was the radar detector that was on the side of it. So I didn't have a TV worth that much.
No. Jeez.
But I knew I wanted the car because I grew up as a car guy.
Yeah.
And I used to love reading the stories about people who were original owners and had all the records and everything like that.
Yep.
And I missed the muscle car era. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't a lot in the 80s.
This is a 3.8?
This is a 3.8.
3.8. So was this the fastest thing in 87?
In 86 and 87.
Quickest thing,
it was the fastest car, 0 to 60, made and sold in America. The Corvette would pass it. I got about 75.
Yeah.
And if you imported a Porsche Carrera, it would beat it to 60.
Wow.
But Car and Driver ran it and got a 4.90 to 60 time.
that was quick in 87.
That was really quick, and it had a 13.
It's no slouch now.
And it had, now it's kind of an average car.
I mean,
but it's still fun to drive.
Your minivan isn't going to do that.
No, but
and you drive the crap out of this car. How many miles do you have on it?
About 141,000.
141,000 miles on this car, ladies and gentlemen, and it still looks this nice. You dailied it for how long?
It was my daily car for 8 years.
Okay.
And then at that point, I bought the Impala SS, and it became my second car.
Okay.
And then I drive it about 1,000 miles a year. And well, obviously, you guys just came from Plant City.
Yeah.
You know, I drive it from here to Lakeland a lot.
I've seen this car in Plant City and in Lakeland several times. So I mean, what have you had to do? Any major things to it, and any modifications you've ever done to it?
Not that big of modifications. The obviously, you know, car that's 37 years old. The transmission's been rebuilt a couple times.
Okay.
And it's gone through a couple turbochargers.
Okay.
It will bark the tires between first and second.
Neat.
And I always thought that was always something that impressed me.
My Camaro does that, and every time I go, every time it does
you
it,
grin. Absolutely.
Okay, I'm not the only one. Good.
Yeah, there's always a silly little grin on my face.
Yep, every time. So, did you put a bigger, better turbo on it, or did you just put a stock one back on it, or?
I through car shows, I got wind of a guy named Don Cruz who specializes in Grand Nationals, and at one point, as far as it may still be, he has the world's fastest Grand National in the quarter mile. It was a 7-second Grand National. Now, obviously, it's a drag car.
Sure.
But
still with a 6-cylinder.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So I ended up connecting with him, and he's been doing a lot of the work for me. The engine has been rebuilt, and the engine is the original numbers matching block and everything, original heads and everything. The only thing we did when we rebuilt it is we went to roller rockers.
Okay.
And then once that was done, the transmission was done. Then it leads to the 36-year-old electronic ignition and computer and everything, and the mass airflow sensor. All that stuff. It was just old and brittle and stuff. So we updated all that. The one thing I hated to do, and I struggled with a lot, is when we did all the electronics updated, I changed the dash out.
Oh, I see that.
And the new dash is really cool. But I have the original dash.
Good.
We'll have to have a look at that.
Yep.
Because it was 1987 Buick dash with the big sweeping arm for a speedometer. It only went to 85 miles per hour.
Right.
And it had the big orange 55 because that was the national speed limit.
Right in the middle.
Right in the middle. And but at the same time, they knew they had a performance car, so they had to put a tack and a boost gauge in it. So rather than even thinking they were going to match that silly speedometer and the fuel gauge, which is basically it, they did a little LCD readout, a bar graph for the turbo and for the...
Did they really? Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was the tack and the turbo boost gauge were LCD readouts.
So it was kind of like how the old C4 Corvette gauges
but
were.
Except
okay.
these are literally bar graphs. At least the Corvette made it look a little bit like an analog gauge.
Right.
But after a while you think, well, that's one of the things unique about the car. So it was a little tricky to want to trade that, but it's so nice having the dash now with full instrumentation and everything.
And what brand did you go with all the instrumentation and everything?
Did a Holley.
Holley, okay. Good.
Don, who does a lot of the work, he's got a connection with Holley.
Good.
And he actually builds, I believe he builds wiring harnesses for Grand Nationals for Holley.
Wow.
Aftermarket performance.
So is this the dash in it? Do you also do Holley injection or anything else, or
everything,
just that? So it's just the dash stuff.
Yeah, there's it's got a new computer in it, and all new wiring and electronic ignition, and we added we upgraded the cooling system. Now has twin electric fans on it.
Especially down here, you need that.
Yeah. Just the last thing I done to it, as I call it, all its breathing, is we replaced literally the original tube headers. That was another thing. The car came with tube headers,
not
manifolds. Yeah, not manifolds. And I have those. I save those too for ever restore.
You never know.
Right. So we'll look at those. But so I have the original exhaust headers.
Okay.
And but we replaced them with some of Don's performance stainless steel chrome headers.
A little bit bigger?
Yeah, a little bit bigger.
Good.
And the exhaust we upgraded slightly bigger because originally, and this is just something I've done in the last year.
Okay.
And it had the original exhaust pipe from the headers back to the mufflers.
Wow.
And then we went ahead and replaced the mufflers and the tailpipes. So
I noticed when you started it up, it does sound a lot more throaty than a stock Grand National.
I look at it as like the car hasn't been so much rust-modded as what I call it just maintained.
It sits perfect.
Yeah, it's original wheels. The tires, came originally with Series 65 tires.
These are a little bit bigger than normal than what they
Barely.
were, right?
They're 60s as opposed to 65s.
Okay, all right.
And so they're just slightly bigger. Gives us a good stance and everything. Shock absorber's been changed once. It probably needs to be done a second time. But the rest of it is original. It's original paint.
I was just noticing there is some patina starting to show in the paint, but I like that. I think that's
too.
Cool.
It's one of the things I hope I never have to paint it. The paint kind of tells a story. You'll see there's a bird poop stain on the paint, and I always tell this story. I said that I had the car for a week, and I had a real good friend who was real good about keeping his cars clean. He says, "You need to wash that bird crap off; it'll stain the paint."
And
I just I did the hours I was working. I got home on the weekend and washed it, and it stained the paint.
Oh, man.
But you know what? 37 years later, it's a story.
Got a story.
And where I rest my arm on the side door, it looks like I wiped the clear coat off.
You sweated through it.
Yeah, and there's a couple other blemishes on stuff on it, just come with the years that have.
Well, I mean, you've got a car from 1987 that you've put 140,000 miles on it. It's going to have a few chips and scratches and some patina and some paint wearing off and everything else. And There's absolutely nothing wrong with that because, you know, if you bought this car this way, or if this was the fourth owner or whatever,
Yeah.
that wouldn't be as cool. That would be a strip down and everything else. But each one of these little things on this car tell a story and show the fact that you've enjoyed this car for that long.
Yeah, and it's got some good stories. The one I like to tell is I took it to Matt's first birthday.
Matt, I think we've covered this. Roger is actually Steve Hurley's brother. So, and Matt, who we're talking about, is Steve Hurley's son. So that's who. So we get everybody in order here.
Yeah. So actually, the first time I ever met Matt, they lived in Texas at the time, and I'd had the car for. We have the same birthday. And,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so I went out for Matt's first birthday.
In
the Grand
From
National.
here.
From Florida, but so that was one thing. Also, I'd had the car for about 3 years, and it was stolen. So we were out with some friends, and it was 4th of July, and we were going to the Rowdies game at the old Tampa Stadium.
Soccer team.
Yeah, and so we went to the stadium, but typical July, big thunderstorm. So we headed down to the Press Box restaurant, sports bar in Tampa.
Yep.
And we had two cars, and we went in there, and you know, on a whim, just to watch baseball and stuff. And we came out, and of course, when I parked my car, I parked it under a street light. You just do that in a parking lot.
Sure.
And you come out, and your natural instinct is you scan the parking lot for your car.
Right.
And I scanned it, and there's an old Cadillac parked where my car is supposed to be. And you come out, I was like, well, maybe I got it wrong. I'm looking around, and it's nowhere to be found.
Oh.
I got home, and you know, everybody's telling me that car's gone. It's parted out.
Yeah.
Or it's being shipped out. And I refused to believe any of that. I said, first of all, you don't steal a Grand National to part it out for Regal parts.
No, you don't.
Okay? You steal a Grand National because someone says, hey, I'd like a Grand National. I don't care where it comes from.
Right.
And what happened? But to do that, someone's going to stalk the car. And they're going to wait till the right moment and take it. And I knew we went to the press box on a whim. So no one was stalking it. So that eliminated both of those. I could only think that someone probably took it, and this is what happened. Someone took it and went joyriding with it.
Okay.
So I used to do a lot of business with Penske. It was my old job. And the rental manager was a car guy. We talked cars all the time. And his brother-in-law happened to be a Tampa police officer.
Okay.
And he was with dinner with his wife and his brother-in-law, and they're talking about my car that was stolen. He goes, you know, we just got one in. We just recovered one. And he goes, really? So he calls me first thing Friday morning. It's been 9 days now. And he says, did the Tampa Police Department call you yet? And I said, no, not yet. And he goes, why? And he told me the story. So I called them over there, and they said, yeah, we did get one. You just got to bring your
title or
your proof of
registration or whatever
down. And I said, all right. So I come over, and it was kind of a rainy day, and I got my friend to give me a ride over to the police department first, proved I owned the car, driver's license, and then they sent me to an impound lot, which was a junkyard off of North Nebraska Avenue.
Ooh.
And we drove up there, and we see the guy there, and he gives me the keys. He says it's back there, and you walk down through these
piles
of crap and cars and everything, and we find it. It's there. There's no interior.
I was gonna say, how bad was it?
Both front seats are gone. Stereo's gone. My second most valuable thing, my radar detector's gone. The back seat's gone, and it was just, and the console, all that's left was the console. And then on a whim, you know, at that point I said, and it had garbage in it. Look, it had a beach bag. So whoever went joyriding in it went to the beach and robbed some people and just dumped the stuff in the back.
God.
And so I said, I'm gonna drive it out of here.
Yeah.
I don't care. I found
Give me a milk crate.
I found a milk crate, exactly. And I was going to steal on the milk crate. I said, just on a whim, I opened the hood and checked the engine, checked the oil, and it was missing oil, no oil. And
So what all did you have to do? Replace the interior?
I had it towed. I had them having it towed out of there, and we took it back to the dealership I bought it from, and they had to replace the interior, and they chased the engine had a blown head gasket.
Okay.
And there's a vacuum line. You can pull the vacuum line off the turbo.
Yeah.
And what it does, it allows unlimited boost.
Yeah.
And
they pulled that?
They either knew to do that, or they hot rodded it so much it blew the tube off. And then what happened, it just too much boost to the engine and it blew the head gasket.
So they drove the wheels off this thing while they stole it, after they stole
I'm guessing.
Ugh.
So that was that. Then the another big issue with it was in 1993, we had the storm of the century. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Okay, at that point, I'd moved up to here about a mile or so away. I lived in a stilt house. And I had a carport, and I had a roommate. Or no, at this point, my roommate moved out, and Cindy and I were engaged, and she'd moved in with her Firebird. And the storm of the century came in, and the tide they did not predict any storm surge. And the tide came in, and it kept on coming in, kept on coming in, and it came up into the carport.
Ooh.
And eventually it came up, and it got into the floor of the Grand National.
Oh, no.
And it got into the underside of the engine, and it got into my wife's car, because she had an 89 Firebird.
Yeah.
It got into the floorboard of her car too, but it also got in, the seats were a little bit lower, so the seats were a sponge.
This is salt water.
This is salt water.
Ugh.
Tide goes out. Again, my buddy comes over, and we were worried about another tide coming in. So I was going to do it, but once again, the instinct, check the engine.
Yeah.
I checked the engine. This time, the oil was way over full.
So water had gotten into it?
Water got into the engine. They have a reputation, they have a rope seal for a rear main seal.
Soaked right through.
Yeah, and it went right through. And nothing more bizarre. I've always changed oil myself every 2,500 miles. And so it was nothing for me to lift the car up and change the oil. So I never started the car. And draining oil is nothing like seeing clear water come out of your oil pan. But so I changed the oil, and then I checked everything else. Then the car wouldn't start, and I said, well, at that point, we're just going to tow it out. I took it to my mechanic.
Yeah.
It turns out the computer for the car is actually in the passenger's
So
floor
it got
panel,
wet.
and it got wet. The starter got wet. So we took it down there, replaced the starter, replaced the computer, and pulled all four wheels, repacked the bearings, cleaned them, put them back in, changed the oil again, reserviced the transmission again, or once.
Yeah.
Redid that, and redid the differential also. Then I took the car to an interior place. They pulled the seats out, pulled the carpet out, cleaned the floorboard,
Got all the salt out of it.
got all the salt out of it, put the seats back in, because the water never got into the seats.
Okay, that's good.
And replaced the backing on the carpet, washed the carpet, put the carpet back in. And so we got all that done. I was talking to my insurance company, because when I originally told them, they said they're probably going to total the car. I said, you're not going to total my car.
Yeah.
And so I went ahead, had all that done, the insurance covered it. And then at that point, I called my fiance, my wife, and I told her, you might want it, because I literally pulled her car out Friday night to wash it, because I knew the storm was coming in.
Yeah.
I pulled it out to wash it, because after the storm was going to come through overnight, we were going to go see if we could trade it.
Oh.
And so so I pulled it out, cleaned her Firebird up, and then backed it back in. And when we were using her car, and then when this car got repaired, we were going to check her car. And when they told me they were going to total it, I told her to call her insurance company. She did. They gave her a shop. We took her to the shop up in Countryside. And sure enough, they called 2 days later, said, we're going to total your car. We said, cool, we don't have to trade it.
1987 Grand National.
Yeah, I assume at some point the silver alerts, there'll be a silver alert on a Grand National.
And you'll just be out wandering
It'll
around.
just be me out, just lost. And
Roger, thank you so much for inviting us out. Sharing your 1987 Grand National that you bought new, still got the window sticker, still got everything. Lots of great stories with this car.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We
welcome.
appreciate it. We're going to head back to the dealership and wrap it up. Roger, thank you so much for inviting us out to your house, sharing that gorgeous 87 Grand National that you bought so long ago and have enjoyed so much, 140,000 plus miles on that car. And trust me when I say, there were a lot more stories that went along with that car that we just didn't have time for. Roger, thank you so much. Make sure you keep checking back for another episode of Behind the Garage Door.
Stingray Chevrolet, relax, enjoy the difference.